Here.
Jade. Here. Javidi. Javasetti.
Here.
Carl. Tyson. Here. Wait, Carl. No. Konda. Kowalski. Kundu. Lanza.
Here.
Levoy.
Here.
McMillan. Here. Michael. Murray. Nazaro. Here. Nenadol.
Here.
Connor.
Here.
Von Olson. LJ. Here. Perry.
Here.
Rasharaman. Here. Thanks, man. Sorry. Borgowski. Schroeder. Sarah.
Here.
Sosnowski. Nakar. Here. Chubu. Villanueva.
Here.
Pilar. Here. Martina.
Here.
Okay. Bird.
Here.
Alberta. Here. Johnny. Here. Dinkaloo. Here. Bleshikon. Gopal.
Here.
Hinton. Here. Johnson. Here. Conrad. Here. Crooks. Here. Mirza. Sadani. Stern.
Here.
Gothru. Sorry. Well, wait. Yes, okay. Hi. Sorry. Cool. Jesus. Hack. Hernandez. Zabrowski. Cool. Great. So, we're going to move into public comment in just 1 second, but by unanimous consent, can we add 2 items to the agenda? So Burke, can you explain really quick what you want to add, and then
Yeah, I would like to add first the removal of the voting rights of current nominating committee, and then second to create a new nominating committee.
so by unanimous consent, can we add that? Yes. Okay, great. Those are going to be items B and C on the agenda. All right, we will now move into approval of the minutes. There are no minutes to approve. Now moving into reports. Oh, I'm sorry. By unanimous consent, can we move the funded board chairs report to after? Lisa, you said after external, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Good. Okay. Alrighty. So, student services. And guys, we can line up in order at the agenda, but just to make the process go faster. Yes.
Hi everyone. So I feel like it's been a while since I've been here. First, Champion time, we finally have a quote from our vendors, so that's getting off the ground. Thanks for being patient. The Sustainability Subcommittee has also presented a lot of legislation, so congrats to them. They've been very productive and we're very proud. We also had a presentation this past week from Levi Green, who's a student that Shomo put in contact with the committee, and it was a wonderful discussion. We're going to be working with dining services, on working with food security for students who need help and are in the bottom 20% income level for students on campus, and I'm kind of that one, sorry. We're just really excited to work with them, and it was a wonderful presentation. It's Student Appreciation Day, all our quotes are in, it's going in the funding system tonight, so we're really on track with all our initiatives. But I would like to take a moment to discuss the false statements that were made about student services and myself at the Senate meeting on February 22nd. I unfortunately was not in attendance to give my report or defend the committee from the false statements that were made. I simply want to defend the work that the Student Services Committee members have done and want to correct the misinformation that was presented to you all. Student Services received the highest budget cut for spring 2017, and not all committees received budget cuts as was previously stated. In regards to the statement that poor management and communication on my part resulted in a failing event, this is also false. There was an error on the part of the vendor in which the ordered items were thought to be needed for a week after our event, and a mislabeled tracking number sent the shirts to a different state, which was Wisconsin. The last statement I will address is the allegation that Student Services took no steps to use the giveaways after last year's Student Appreciation Day. where they weren't able to be given out completely, this statement is blatantly false. Student Services immediately planned a fall Student Appreciation Day and invited the new chairperson for programs oversight to collaborate because they were a new chairperson. Student Services was very successful with the fall Student Appreciation Day, and the remaining items, just because it was a smaller scale event, due to the constraints of having it in the SOC with the help of programs, resulted in it being smaller. So the mistake on the part of the vendor was a learning moment for myself and the committee members who worked on the event, but saying that we relied on other committees and individuals negates the work of the committee. Because while there are still giveaways left, they're going to be given out, lessons have been learned. I'm not going to go into detail about every statement that was made during the debate, but I do want to thank Senator Gibbs for doing his best to speak for me and taking the hit when our committee was attacked. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart, and you shouldn't have been put in that position. I unfortunately am not able to stay for the remainder of this meeting after I conclude this report, as I have a class from 7 to 9 p.m. that I was unable to move for the semester. That's why I'm not here, and I leave after my report every week. It makes me sad that I can't stay. And I understand that statements may be made in response to what I have just said, but I do encourage you all to reach out to me with any questions or concerns you may have, because I would like to be the one to talk to you directly about these concerns. This isn't a request for more money. I just wanted to defend the hard work of my committee members, because while statements can be made about myself, they shouldn't be made about my committee members and the amazing work they have done this past year and last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson Conrad. Are there any questions for the chair? Seeing none, we will now move into the report of the president. Dan, how are you?
So first, we just got back from warm and sunny Texas. 8 of us went and had a wonderful time. So if you have any questions about what we learned, maybe we'll give a presentation at caucus, maybe. And certainly you're welcome to talk to any of us who went. I always have found that COSGA has been something that's very valuable. I hope that even after I leave, USG continues to attend. Also, our presentation that USG gave for the first time in our history was a huge success. I heard from everybody that our Rish and my presentation was everyone's favorites. Everyone in the room got a copy of the presentation because they wanted to bring it back to their student governments. So we probably had like 10 or 11 student governments who are going to be addressing this issue with their student governments over the next couple of weeks, which is very exciting. And we're still getting emails about questions about open source textbooks, and it's very exciting. That was all I had in my report originally, and unfortunately, Chairperson Conrad had to step out for class, but I would also just like to address a couple things about debate from 2 weeks ago. First, Comptroller Johnny and I never said that all committees were cut. We said all committees except external were cut. And secondly, Comptroller Johnny and I saw the purchase order that the t-shirts were bought with, and the wrong date was put on the purchase order. The person who put that date there is Chairperson Conrad, and I just want to clear the air up with that because I don't want Comptroller Johnny and I to be taken or be called liars when her and I, we saw the purchase order. So I respect Chairperson Conrad, I respect the Student Services Committee. I'm sorry that we had to cut budgets. I know that's not something that's easy to do, it's not something that's fun to do, it's not something I want to do, but given our budget, it was something I felt we had to do, and I think the Senate at least agreed with us on that. So I appreciate you all. And if you have any questions about COSGA, please let me know.
All right, any questions for the president? No? Seeing none, we will now move into the report of the vice president. And guys, for all exec members, I think I want to be done with questioning Eliza and your opinions. Like, I don't know who's right or who's wrong, but just like everyone. Okay? Is that all right? Thank you. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay.
You weren't, so.
No, yeah, that's not any of my business. So, just a few things. Sydney's here, she's going to talk a little bit about banquets. I don't want to go too into that. But we are looking at some sort of diversity training for March 29th. But also the cultural centers have been looking at the value of possibly doing it on April 26th, although that would be after some of the old centers would be leaving. But the centers do think it's really important to start setting a tone and building relationships with the centers starting as soon as the new centers and the new administration begin. So we're kind of having those conversations about which one we would rather go with. And then another thing too is to continue respecting the office. Everybody should be respectful in that space, and also respectful on Facebook, especially within our USG group. It should not be used as a way to talk negatively about anyone in this organization. So I would hope that the next few days that everyone is respectful to everybody, because it's not fair seeing some of the things that are being posted within the USG Facebook group, and as well as things that are being said in the office. So I would hope that everybody would continue to respect one another no matter what.
Excellent. All right, any questions for the Vice President? All right, seeing none, we will now move into the report of the Comptroller.
Hello everyone. I wanted to start off my report by saying thank you to the 7 other members of COSCA that flew to Texas. It was an amazing experience. I've been there once before. I can truly say that this far surpassed the last time. And it was thanks to the group of people that were there, your cooperation, your hard work, and the way you represented UConn. I could not have been more proud to have been there with all of you. And so for anyone that didn't go this year, I highly encourage you to go. It was probably one of the highlights, probably the highlight of my senior year so far. Dan, thank you for leading that presentation on open source textbooks. Like he said, it was a really big hit, and we had advisors that have gone to Texas for 10 plus years tell us that this was one of the most productive presentations that a school is given. So that just felt really good, and I think that's also a reflection on our USG and the things that we're doing. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that it was extremely eye-opening, and this is why I encourage people to go. We were in the conservative South. So we had 2 speakers that were extremely conservative. We had different viewpoints from ours, and not in a political sense, but more of things that student governments in more conservative states, the things that they face when they want to advocate on behalf of the students, but can't because the administration won't listen or because the state is threatening to cut funding. These are problems that those schools are having, and having us as a contact or support is extremely valuable for them, and getting their viewpoint is extremely valuable for us. So that was on COSCA. Dan and I worked on the SVAC budget, and we did resubmit that to SVAC, and we haven't heard anything back, which I think is good news. We wanted to show them that we won't be projecting a deficit. And so kind of having said that, Dan mentioned that, you know, with the debate last week and the cuts in the budget itself, I wanted to thank everyone in Senate for having a very constructive discussion on that and being understanding about why we need to cut things where we do. And I've had people reach out to me to talk about the budget. I'd be more than happy to walk through it with you step by step and kind of explain to you why SVAC asked us to do the things that we did. So having said that, the last thing that I'd like to say is that President Byrd and I would fact check things a million times before making any claims in front of Senate. And so everything that we do say, if it's a hard statement, just know that we have checked multiple sources before we say it in front of you guys.
Excellent. All right, are there any questions for the Comptroller? Seeing none, we'll now move to the reports of the Chiefs of Staff.
Hey guys, I feel like it's been so long since I've seen you all. So super exciting news, banquet is, I think I gave you a date before, but that date is incorrect. It is now April 7th, it's gonna be terrific. I am planning on, I'm so excited. We're gonna have like a mac and cheese bar, or like a French fry bar, I can't decide. I'm so excited. But I think buses are gonna leave at like 5:30, so start making like plans for that now. It's a Friday, so I hope that doesn't conflict too much. But it's a great place. It's in Simsbury. It's called the Riverview. Look it up. It's beautiful. They have weddings there, and we're special. So interestingly, this year we're going to cap it at 130 people. Hopefully, everyone that wants to go is able to go, but that is like the number of buses that we have, and we don't want to get an extra bus if it's just going to be for 10 people. So we're going to cap it at 130 people. So when the RSVP comes out, make sure that you are responding as soon as possible if you want to go. It's going to be like cocktail attire. Is that like the dress code? So it's fun. I don't know. We're going to send out like the RSVP during the break. And Irma is working on stuff for seniors that's going to be new this year, so it's going to be really fun. She's going to send out a spreadsheet also during break, and if you are a graduating senior, put your name on it. If you're going to graduate this semester. Perfect. I think I'm good. Okay. Hi everyone. Happy International Women's Day. I see a bunch of you are wearing red. Love it. So I just want. What am I saying? Oh, Irma wants to take a group picture at the end, as would I, and parliamentarian Goebel, and everyone else I'm sure too, even if you're not wearing red. But also, okay, so Comptroller Johnny and I are working with Chairperson Mirza on implementing the inventory system finally. It's called Odoo, and I'm sure whoever's going to give us a report is going to talk more about that, but we're going to be ordering a bunch of cool stuff, and it's going to be accessible to internal members as well as Tier 2 members. Question? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Any questions for the chiefs of staff?
Sorry, yeah. Actually, never mind. Will we be ordering items this year as in things?
I'll let programs do it. I don't know who's doing it. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, any other questions for the chiefs of staff? Seeing none, we will now move into the report of the speaker. All right, hi everyone, I'm George today. So the only announcements that we have is that in addition to the position of speaker opening at First House Senate, where the Senate body is going to elect a speaker, also you will be nominating and then electing a parliamentarian. So if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns about it, feel free to reach out to me or George or Shomo or Lauren. Our lovely team has a lot of knowledge about how Senate works, and they've been crucial in helping this go smoothly this year. So let me know. All right, now Chief Justice.
Hello everybody. So after break, we're going to be meeting with Dwight Atherton, who's from Parking Services, to start talking about getting student representation on parking appeals. So I'll need all of you again to, we're creating legislation in a stable position so we can present that for him so that we have the student body on our side. So I'll need sponsoring senators. Our meeting is actually tomorrow, so we're going to write the legislation, so I'd love for any of you who are free tomorrow at 5:15, I'd love for you to go. And besides that, that's very cool.
That's it. Any questions for Chief Justice Stewart?
Yep.
Where
The SLC.
All right, any other questions? No? Seeing none, we'll now move into the report of academic affairs.
Howdy. We've basically got three things we're working on right now. First, we're going to approve funds tomorrow, I believe, for the more than 10,000 event that we're going to have, which is basically a new student org on campus that wants to have an info panel about knowing your rights almost in a certain way. It's not any politically charged panel, it's more for promoting academic discourse here on campus. So that's super exciting, stay on the lookout for that. The second project would be the Open Educational Resources Appreciation Event that we're partnering up with Bergon. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be planning that out soon. I believe it's going to be in April, specific dates.
13th.
April 13th. I just got the email about it, so good stuff. Do you have anything you want to say to them? Can I yield if he chooses to? Okay, cool. Yeah, someone can give a little more information on that.
Welcome back to Senate.
Okay. Hey everybody, this is your friendly neighborhood person, Simon. Yeah, like Ben said, we want to just hold, it's mainly going to be a visibility event to allow professors to meet with other members of the faculty who are using open educational resources with great effect. So we're still hashing out all those details, but it will be April 13th, more to come. And also, can I talk about the whole state thing? Cool. So an opportunity that I recently heard about and wanted to put out was that, you know, the committee at UConn, the Open Educational Resources Committee, has made UConn a real leader among universities. I mean, this is that committee that was created out of like our work and USG's work, putting all that money towards the creation of an open chemistry textbook. And that's what Dan and Rashida were giving that presentation on, the use of OER. And there's also a statewide task force there was to explore how to best move that to the state level so that students around the state can explore, can basically have resources, access to open educational resources. And that committee, which I was on and Dan was also on, and Martha Bedard from the library and some other folks from UConn, basically made some recommendations about what the state can do to increase access to open educational resources for students from across the state, and for faculty who want to learn about those resources. And so there's actually legislation right now, which has just been, it's going through committee right now, the Higher Education Committee, which Greg Haddad, our representative, is the chair, and he proposed this legislation to follow up on the recommendations of that committee and do a few things like doing a lot of what the committee at UConn does, getting a grant program for faculty statewide to use to explore open educational resources and their adoption. Other things like creating a statewide warehouse for open educational resources, and some other really good stuff that would allow students from across the state and faculty to benefit from OER, which is really what we're going to do because we've been such a leader on that. So there's a public hearing on that tomorrow, actually a little short notice, but it's tomorrow at 10:30. And we're organizing some testimony and we have some cars going. So if any of you are free at that time, maybe from about 9:15 to 1 or 1:30, then please come and talk to me. And I would love to take more UConn students and show that student support. The students are who they really want to hear from. So yeah, that's everything for me.
Thank you so much. Cool. And I guess the third thing that we're working on, if anyone actually remembers what I was talking about, are care packages. That's it.
No, it's fine.
No. God, I already said that keeps being. Alright, care packages, not swag bags, as I've said every year for the last 2 years.
All right, any questions with the academic affairs chair? Seeing none, we'll now move into the Board of External Affairs chair.
Hi everyone. Okay, so you probably saw pictures. I try to post them a lot. But this past Sunday we did a cleanup in town that went really, really well. We actually had a lot of members of IFC come out, which was great. We were able to collect like 10 bags of garbage, and we only did part of Hunting Lodge, so we're hoping to go back and do like a lot more. So definitely stay tuned if you're interested in like community service hours or any of that. One thing that we've been doing a lot in committee, which has been interesting, is having general debates and discussion on some bills that are going through the state level and nationally. So if you're interested in any of that, definitely come by external. It's been a very common thing recently, and I think a lot of people have enjoyed it. The HAT event, which is that community service event, teaching residents of town computer help and phone help, is going to be on the 25th officially. That is a Saturday. It's going to be a few hours in the afternoon. We have a big room. Andrew Gowski's done a great job. He's met with the people. They're very, very accommodating, and we have computers and tables and everything. So let me know if you're interested in that. Colin Mortimer actually went on the COSGA trip. He is my vice chair for town affairs, and he's actually working to plan a big community service event right now, which he was inspired to do from COSGA. So stay tuned with that as well. He's very excited about it, and I'm very excited about it. So hopefully it goes really well. It's probably going to be spring weekend. We've been talking with Speaker Wang about that as well. And then finally, the week we come back from break, that Friday, we have like a budget informational event, which is when we're going to be tabling and kind of giving a little information for students about the budget cuts and how it affects us. So if you're interested in helping with that, let me know as well. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Chairperson Hinton? Let it go. All right, everybody. Final word, Chair.
Hello everyone, I hope everyone's having a good Wednesday before break and we're all getting excited. My report is going to be pretty short and sweet because really all I have to report on is that we've released the final spring deadline, which means that all funding requests from Tier 2 organizations for the remainder of this semester, the spring 2017 semester, are due to funding board by March 13th, which is next Monday by 5 p.m. So that's on the radar if anyone's in Tier 2s. It's out there. We sent it out through DSA information through Kristen Carr. So that is really all I have to report, since we are now just about 7 weeks from the end of the semester, and we're trying to wrap up funding and get ourselves in a good place for the summer and to begin fall.
All right, any questions? Seeing none, we'll now move into the report of programs, which is going to be delivered by our lovely chief of staff, Erica Lesher.
Okay, so he really wants me to start this out by saying, "What's good, people?"
He Snapchatted me about that too, so he's very interested in this.
He's gonna watch the UCTV thing back. But anyway, he wants me to tell you that the stress event was good, intentionally super low key. Thank you to Haley for working with him on that. And he wants everyone to grab stress balls from the SOC because there's a lot left over. And Programs was able to work out a deal with the New York Times so that our budget doesn't get hit that hard by the price increase this semester. Any questions?
Questions, comments, concerns? All right, seeing none, we'll now move to the report of student development.
Hi everyone. So last Thursday we had our Women in Career panel event, and while we didn't get the turnout that we wanted, we did have a very successful event, and the professors even came up to us after and said that they preferred the smaller environment. We had people asking personal questions about sexual harassment, sexual assault, and where they can get context for that if they're experiencing that. And they also asked different questions about each woman's experience because they did come from a variety of backgrounds. We've continued working on Culture and Urban House. So we've reached out to all of the culture centers, and they have all their budgets, so they're on their way to planning what they want to do. For Let Them Eat Cake, we finalized our candy for decorating, so that's been put into the funding system for approval. For both Culture and Urban House, Founders Day, and Let Them Eat Cake, we're finalizing giveaway ideas, and then we'll order those hopefully either next week or the week when we get back. So if anyone has any really cool ideas for giveaways that they think would be cool but they haven't seen yet, feel free to send me an email with your idea and I'll see if I can make it happen. We're also adding new elements into the spring weekend events that are different from previous years to keep them new. So for Culture and Urban House, not only if you complete your passport and turn it in, will you get a t-shirt, but you will also get a ticket that you can use the next day to get free food from a different spring weekend event. For Let Them Eat Cake, we're adding in a student voting portion, so the people who come to get the giveaways can also go around and vote for their favorite cakes, and that'll be tallied into their final scores. And for Founders Day, we're reaching out to different Tier 3 groups so that they can present on their organizations as well.
Any questions for the student development chair? Seeing none, we'll now move into old business. There is no old business, so we'll now move into new business. All right, the first item on our agenda is a statement of position regarding the UConn Foundation's investment in fossil fuels. And I know that Senator Javidi and DeReer want to make some minor adjustments, right, to your legislation. Oh, you already did. Okay. It's what? Oh, okay. So we don't have a motion just because it's coming up. Yeah, great.
So the first one, the first,
Okay, so wait, we do want to make these.
Yeah.
Okay, they're minor grammatical amendments. They're not going to change the meaning of the legislation, just like some clarification for wording, okay?
So it should be 2016.
Okay. Great.
And then the second one, so whereas institutions such as San Francisco State University, which all should be all instead of
All right, so by unanimous consent, can we pass those minor adjustments? Yes, great, all right. Then I will let you guys review the discussion.
A statement of position regarding the Yukon Foundation's investment in fossil fuels. Whereas the Yukon Foundation operates to promote the educational, scientific, cultural, research, and recreational objectives of the University of Connecticut. Whereas the Yukon Foundation solicits, administers, and invests private funds for the sole benefit of the university and its missions of pursuing excellence in teaching, research, and public service. Whereas 2016 will be the hottest year on record. Whereas the overwhelming majority of scientists agree that climate change is caused by human activity. Whereas the emission of greenhouse gases due to the burning of fossil fuels is a major contributor of the dangerous changes happening to our climate. Whereas the extraction of fossil fuels by fracking can cause earthquakes and threaten the water sources. Whereas rising sea levels threatens the existence of coastal areas across the globe, including Connecticut. Whereas oil spills have caused irreversible damage to the environment. Whereas the transport of fossil fuels through pipelines leads to spills which damage water sources and damage the environment. Whereas viable alternative clean energy sources widely exist and are in many cases economically competitive with fossil fuels. Whereas investment in fossil fuel companies contributes to climate change. Whereas the need for action on climate change on the local and state level is heightened due to recent political developments.
Whereas UConn lags behind other public institutions on socially responsible investments, which is both a moral responsibility and a financially legitimate action. Whereas poorly performing stocks in the fossil fuel industry caused the UConn Foundation to lose money in fiscal year 2016. Whereas the UConn Foundation does not make public details regarding which specific corporations it is invested in. Whereas institutions such as the San Francisco State University, University of California, Irvine, and Stanford University, which both stand above UConn on Sierra Club's list of greatest schools in America, and other campuses have already divested or implemented initiatives to begin the process of divestment from fossil fuels. Therefore, be it resolved that the undergraduate student government strongly encourages the UConn Foundation to divest of fossil fuel companies. Therefore, be it further resolved that the undergraduate student government calls on the foundation to divest the university endowment from fossil fuels completely and to avoid investment in fossil fuels in the future. Therefore, be it further resolved that the undergraduate student government suggests that the UConn Foundation invest in clean renewable technologies. And therefore, be it further resolved that the undergraduate student government encourages the UConn Foundation to be transparent in its investing activities.
I need a second sponsor for this legislation. Is anybody willing to sponsor? All right, Jimmy, I saw yours first, but if you everybody put it all down if you'd like. Okay. And then Miles, we're also going to amend this to show your constituency, not your sustainability subcommittee. Is that okay? Great. All right. And in which constituency are you?
Buckley
Buckley should be, okay. And Wawa, I saw yours, right? And what's your constituency? Man, okay. And Lauren, you were, right? Okay. All right. So we'll now move into discussion. Anybody? Oh, Harry. Okay, great. Okay. Sorry. This. Not here, maybe there. Oh yeah, you guys. Questions? Sorry, questions and then discussion. Questions? Seeing none. Right? We'll now move into discussion. I'm sorry. Okay. So, Stephen?
Discussion on the legislation
legislation, because we've got a vote to pass this, so does anybody at all have any questions? No? Okay, I have a couple questions, so, so I guess I'll just go. So if we're not able to have public details regarding which specific corporations UConn Foundation is invested in, then how do you guys know that the stocks caused the UConn Foundation to lose money this past fiscal year? Yeah, you can answer. I would come up to the microphone. Guys, come on, this is like some good legislation.
So I went through all.
It's on.
Okay. I went through all of the statements that the UConn Foundation makes public, and the Gerald J. Gantz, who is the Vice President of Finance and Administration at UConn, was explaining why the endowment lost return like 0.3%. And these are his words. He says that fiscal year 2016 was marked by falling oil prices, exceptionally high stock market volatility, slowing Chinese economy relate what he says here. However, return from private real assets in total was weighed down by exposure to energy-related investments, which experienced significant losses as oil prices fell sharply during the fall months. So he specifically brings up that the reason that the endowment performed poorly financially was because of investments in oil.
That makes sense. And then these other campuses, wait, Darius, I'm sorry, I'm asking you another question. These other campuses that have divested or implemented initiatives, can you just detail out what you know about their initiatives? Yeah, somebody else should be Jerry, I'm sorry. Oh, you did? You've got the power. Do you want the microphone too?
No, you did.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry.
I'm not familiar with the exact details
That's
of
okay.
the initiatives, but I just know that that's
And then...
Yes, we asked for.
Last question, I promise. What is your specific plan for if we pass this?
well, I think that we need to get broad student support behind the initiative, because I feel like if we just pass the initiative as undergraduate student government, we won't have that much leverage going to the initiative to discuss with them. So I think that passing this legislation is a good first step. We have to follow up with the students and gather a lot of student support for this initiative.
Just, I don't know, for your information, I think, and I'm sure you know, but Hadia did some really great legislation with divesting from private prisons, and so I think that a similar model could be used probably to divest from fossil fuels. So,
Are there any other questions? Yes.
Is the call to divest from fossil fuels only based on one fiscal year data?
All the reasons for calling on them to divest from fossil fuels aren't just really anything. That's just one aspect of it, but the fact is that fossil fuels directly contribute to climate change, and with current political
Stephen, do you mind just repeating yourself for the minutes?
Well, if the comment is out of order, I would suggest you don't repeat it, but if you could formulate it into a question, you may ask the question.
And then stand up if you're not going to come to the mic and speak nice and loud, okay?
I guess my question is, was there any consideration given to past economic performance and stocks? Well, or is it possible to incorporate a position and acknowledgement of that while also encouraging the Econ Foundation and Econ as a whole to practice and invest in sustainable efforts and energy?
I mean, my personal opinion is that fossil fuels aren't a good investment just because long term we're going to run out of fossil fuels eventually. At that point, investment will also just market forces are moving away from fossil fuels and moving towards renewable energies. And I also say that the market is really, oil prices are really low and we're going to stay low for a long time because the U.S. has really increased its drilling of fossil fuels. So I just think that long term doesn't make sense financially. It's also more importantly, it's really harming the environment.
Yes, Senator Badler. Can you please stand?
Yeah, stand and then
Or please
or come up to the
come to the
podium.
mic. Come up.
Actually, Darius, if you want to be at the podium, so that way you can answer questions, and then everybody can go to that kind of thing. Sorry. Yeah, I'm totally
First of all, I want to commend you both on creating this legislation. I think it's a really great step for a university, especially as UConn has a culture of being environmentally friendly campus. So if this would go through and the administration was to take this seriously, UConn would be the second public institution to take this forward. UMass Amherst was the first as of last year. So the umbrella of what is and what is not a fossil fuel supporting company is obviously large. So do you think there are any steps or certain companies or parts of that umbrella that you'd like to focus on specifically? Like UMass Amherst, I know they specifically focused on coal companies. So do you have any steps on which companies you want to focus?
Yeah, I would classify fossil fuel companies as companies whose primary activity is drilling for fossil fuels, such as like companies that mine coal, companies that their primary activity is to drill for oil, like Shell, like ExxonMobil, these types of companies, British Petroleum, and companies that mine for coal. That's what
Given the lack of transparency in UConn and stating specifically which companies they are funding or giving money to, how do you think you can work with UConn or the UConn Foundation in specifically focusing on different parts of the umbrella of fossil fuel companies?
I mean, personally, I think that the UConn Foundation needs to be more transparent because they don't release details of any of the corporations that they're invested in. So, as part of a public university, I think that they really need to be more transparent. But I would say that you have to review with them what exactly their investments are and what companies they're directly invested in, and talk about divesting them.
So your first step would be to ask for transparency and then move into figuring out which companies to divest from and which ones to reinvest in?
Yeah, exactly, because it's impossible for us to take action if we don't know what companies specifically they're invested in. So I think transparency is the first step.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
I was just wondering, since there's a lack of transparency, I guess I'm kind of concerned about like where the data is coming from and like kind of how you got the backing for this. I was kind of curious exactly how much money does UConn take in from these investments? Do you know?
I can, like I said, the financial information that they make public is not. It's basically just really broad figures. So, for example, the data is as of the last financial year, they had approximately $305 million invested in publicly traded security, and now that number has gone down to approximately $286 million invested in publicly traded securities. So they've lost money, and the exact percentages, their investments have returned a negative 1.3% return.
Okay, so we're thinking about like the market trends and assuming that it's mostly from these fossil fuel investments, although we don't really know exactly what companies.
Yeah, I mean the reason I say that is because the Vice President of Finance and Administration at UConn, he specifically, when he was explaining why the endowment and the investment of the endowment returned a negative 0.3% investment, one of the primary factors that he mentioned was the falling oil prices and poorly returned energy-related investments, which did not.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Senator Blue.
Just wanted to say first off, thank you and honor the legislation. I just have a couple of questions. Do you know that natural gas is a fossil fuel?
Yes.
Do you know that UConn uses natural gas in their cogen plant?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, the only thing I ask is, do you think there's a conflict that you're asking the UConn Foundation not to invest in the energy that we use? Do you think there's or anything the UConn Foundation might resist if this legislation passes?
I mean, I'm a realist, and I recognize that UConn is basically powered by natural gas, and also, I'm sure you're aware that in Connecticut, the two primary sources of electricity are from nuclear energy and natural gas. We have one of the worst percentages of renewable energy in our state portfolio, I guess you would say. So I'm aware of that, and I know that we can't just wave a magic wand and have UConn immediately stop producing its electricity from natural gas, but I would say that even though UConn uses natural gas, I would say it's important for them to stop supporting fossil fuels fossil fuel companies to continue extracting, stop them from fracking and doing all these things which are really harming our environment. So I'm not aware that there's a conflict there, but I still think that's important that we divest even though we use natural gas.
Do you think because there's a conflict there, if the bill's reworded to say to include coal and oil, which are the other two types of fossil fuels, but not natural gas, would you still be behind the bill, or do you think natural gas?
Natural gas, I mean, people say that it's cleaner than oil and coal, which it is. However, natural gas has a lot of other risks, such as fracking, which really damages water supplies and also increases the risk of earthquakes. So I really think that the university shouldn't be invested in natural gas companies for those reasons.
Are there any other questions? Parliamentarian Gold.
Just speaking to Sarah Curtis's point, I think that specifically targeting like specific issues is the way that we've found most effective to go about dealing with the foundation and divesting from specific things that we have issues with, rather than declaring a need for more transparency from them because like they have zero desire to have more transparency for whatever reason. So that's my only point. Okay.
Is there any discussion on the bill? Yes, Senator Boyd.
I have a separate question. Whenever legislation actually went to the House of Representatives, that did pass, and that's what was asking, just trying to figure out, I remember last year, about transparency and development. So I don't know if you know how that ruling went in the government side, whether the government side, it passed. It passed the House. So I don't know if the government side, but I remember last year, there's a lot of problems, so I was curious, I think there are a question. I was curious how you think this would affect us asking them to cut off these investments. What do you think results are going to achieve from that?
I mean, it's impossible to say, but I think that if we have a lot of student backing and students really make their voices heard, faculty make their voices heard, so that we function possible. I think that it will put pressure on them to, if not divest from the fossil fuels, I think force to make some concessions, awareness and
Deputy, yes, Deputy Chief Justice Gabbard.
Point of clarification, just to let you know, maybe something that you and the regional affairs very good on, but there is a bill going to the government administration, the election committee in the state legislature, and they are trying to get the Beacon Foundation to release all of their financial documents. So maybe when the public hearing happens or something, you could probably go testify about that. And this would be a really great opportunity to talk about the initiatives USG is taking and why they need these statements to be public. And I feel like people would love to have some young people talk about government administration because that's really good.
Yes, anybody for discussion who has not had the chance to speak yet? All right, Senator Blumenthal.
Yeah, sorry, last question. So, it's just, you keep mentioning student support for the bill after it's passed, but since we represent the student body, I feel like we should have the support before it. But PERG's already working on a campaign for 100% renewable energy, and that closely goes with the bill. I'm just curious why the authors did not put anything with the public interest research group and their campaign, which is closely connected to this.
I'm aware of their campaign and about this bill, real well with the campaign, so, I mean, I'm really open to working with them. There's nothing really that might sound like we didn't want to support it.
Do you feel like,
Yes.
do you feel like the bill can be supported if you mention PERG's current campaign and how they have over 2,000 petitions? Okay, then, I don't know the wording, but I can.
Senator Gibbs.
Pretty quiet. About the PERG campaign, I wish others still forget that here, but we actually, our discussion with Walter, you and I, frankly, what I needed from that was that their campaign is more aligned with the legislation that we're currently drafting and working on. So I figured it would have been repetitive to this, which is more with respect to the foundation investment, where the legislation will pass, you and I will be more related to the specific purchasing power, how UConn purchases the power that it doesn't get from the cogen plant. Because the cogen plant, one that we discussed earlier, produces about 90% of our power. And it is rather efficient because cogeneration both produces electricity and steam used for heating. So as far as fossil fuels goes, it's like efficient, but there is a 10% that UConn purchases, and a big movement in any progressive institution, you could say, is at least investing their purchasing power into clean renewable sources, and I think that's more aligned with what PERG is currently working on. So I do hope to get them involved, just as we've gotten involved with open following sustainability agenda, but
All right, is there any other discussion on the bill? One more call for discussion. Seeing none, we will move into a vote. All those in favor of passing the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, the motion carries.
Thank you, President Bird, for doing a better job than I did, for sure. All right, so we will now move into a removal of voting rights of the Judiciary Nominating Committee.
So we need another justice, and I need to form a new nominating committee. All the nominating committee must be senators. Our current nominating committee is not made up of all senators, so I'd like to remove the rights of those members first, and then the second motion is to create a new nominating committee. So, yeah, I guess I'll entertain the motion, but someone has to motion.
Yeah. Okay. Two, and then second to no. Three. All right. Is there any discussion? Gibbs.
I don't know much about the judiciary or how the whole thing works, so I was just wondering if you could give a little bit more background.
Yeah. So.
I know you guys are great. I know you're great, but I don't know.
So the president doesn't actually have the ability to nominate justices on their own. The nominating committee is who nominates the justices. I know. Okay, so as many of you know, we have 5 justices. One of those justices is running for president, so cannot serve on the judiciary in any capacity in regards to the election. And as you all know, an appeal was filed based on a judiciary decision. That appeal has to be heard by the full judiciary, which would be constituted of 5 members. But technically, in all issues regarding the election, we only have 4. So we need another justice to serve kind of in that interim, so that we can hear that the judiciary can hear that appeal. So the point of nominating a new nominating committee is to get a 5th justice on the court. Yeah.
So they would only serve until.
They would probably only be temporary until the election results are done, because we have a full court on every issue except the election, and then once the election results once that's done, we can't have 6 because our constitution, which was approved for 7, hasn't been voted on by the board of trustees yet. So technically, we just only have 5 spots. Does that make sense? We actually voted on a constitutional change to add 2 more, but that's not official. That passed the student body, but it hasn't passed the board of trustees yet. So it's technically we only have 5 slots available. So we kind of have to do an interim.
So we're putting together a committee of how many people?
3.
To select.
1 for like 2 weeks.
All right, and then
That's the process.
So you have to vote to confirm.
Yeah, and you have to vote to confirm that interim justice.
So we won't be able to vote.
And the nominating committee has to vote to nominate that justice.
All right.
So here's the timeline. We all create a new nominating committee. The nominating committee meets at some point in the next 2 weeks, hopefully because it's kind of short notice, probably the first 2 days back from break, hopefully. They nominate somebody that Wednesday, so 2 weeks from today. That justice is confirmed that Wednesday, which is, I don't know what day, 20-something. And then we'll have a 5th interim justice. Is that correct, Judiciary?
Any other questions? This is a little complicated, so I'd encourage you to ask anything that you're confused about at all. Just give a minute. Okay. Seeing none, we'll now move to a vote. All those in favor of passing the removal of voting rights of the Judiciary Nominating Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? I abstain. So 1 abstention. All right, in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, the motion carries. All right.
Okay, so now I would like to, if I may, Madam Chair.
Did we get a motion for this?
Well, can I name the people first?
Name.
So I will be nominating, I would like to nominate, with the consent of the Senate, Comptroller Johnny, Speaker Wang, and Senator Nazaro.
All right, do I have a motion? All right, let's go to O'Connor, and then seconded by Gathru. Did I pronounce that right this time? I'll educate George, don't worry. All right, guys, so, any discussion? Lauren?
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant Senator OJ, not Comptroller Johnny. I'm sorry, Rich. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, I meant Lauren OJ, Senator OJ. I am so sorry. Thank you, Lauren.
Any other discussion? Any other debate? Perhaps? You guys have speaking rights, so. We're good? All right, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll now move into a vote. All those in favor of nominating Senator OJ, Speaker Wang, and Senator Nazaro to the Judiciary Nominating Committee signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? All right. All right, the ayes have it and the motion carries. All right, now that we have finished with new business, we will now move into discussion. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll now move into announcements. Are there any announcements? No? Yes? Erica, you go. Oh, and then Laura.
Don't forget to stay after for the picture for International Women's Day.
Thank you for the reminder. Okay.
Hi everyone. I spoke about this last Senate about Afro next month. It's still Afro next month, just in case you were wondering. So our next event is tomorrow. It's called Afro Latinx Voices. It's about just poetry, spoken word, all about self-identity. It's gonna be here in the SU Ballroom, 7:30 to 9 o'clock. We have a guest speaker. Her name is Frankie Reese. She was on MTV's Washington Heights, if anyone ever watched that show. She was really dope. She's a really good poet. So if you guys are into that stuff, make sure to stop by.
Thank you, Ms. Farrar. Veruca.
Hello, Senate, everyone. First off, have a great spring break. You all deserve it. You all work hard. All right, I just wanted to come up here and update everyone. President Byrd and Angela Rolla came up here last Senate and talked about the Together Project. I was interested. I reached out to her. And just last Wednesday, the Ibu Patel talk on his book, we had the Together Project and volunteers show off buttons. They had a little bulletin board where people can put stickers on what they believe in and what we think togetherness means. So after spring break, the Together Project is going to be in full swing. We're going to need more volunteers. I'm representing USG. It's just me so far. I would love more senators to come help me. Exactly. And everybody that wants to learn more about the Together Project, talk to Rolla and spread the message. It's going to be after spring break, so get ready.
Oh, thank you, Senator Veruca. Last announcement, so the week after we get back from break is a Senate week, so we just follow the schedule. So in theory, during spring break, we would have had caucus if we were in school, if we were not in school, so then we're gonna have Senate the week that we get back. Now, if you have any legislation that you would like to pass, reminder that the deadline is Saturday at midnight, I believe, and so just submit that to George. And don't forget, because you're gonna be on break, so I know you'll be in spring break, but there's that. And I personally am working on executive compensation legislation. That's something that I'm going to be doing over the break with Andrew Rogalski. So if you're interested, please email me. And if there aren't any other announcements, we will adjourn at 7:42.